All right, it's really hot outside. It's gonna hit 105 degrees. Humidity's through the roof, deep in the heart of Texas. So we're gonna talk about cutters, flags, floppies, ultra bounce, diffusion, nets, kind of the whole mix, frames, gels, kind of a mix of everything that I carry on the van. And I'm gonna kind of give you a rundown on what they do. So right now, actually, I have a solid over the phone giving it some shade because it's probably going to overheat if we left it in full sun recording this little segment. So we'll see how far it goes. It may be cut short, so we'll know when it stops, and I'll just have to continue later. So I have C-stands on each side of me. Important thing with the C-stand is when you're facing this knuckle, so I'm facing it here, if you're facing the handle right there, the knob, you want to make sure that your weight is on the right-hand side. That's the rule. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If it's on the left-hand side, it's like you pulling a wrench and loosening it. So if I'm staring at it, the knob here, I want the weight to be over here where it tightens it, not over here where it goes this way. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make with stands. So if I have the knob on the opposite side here and I'm looking at the knob here, it's going to my right, and it may be going to my left over here if I'm looking at the wrong side. But look at where the knob is, look at where the weight is, and make sure you put your weight on the right-hand side to make it safe, because over time it can start loosening up and then fall down, hit talent, damage set, damage a product, damage a one of one product. You're in big trouble. I also put shop bags down. I put 2 on each, so we have a total of 40 pounds on each of them. I put it on the big leg, and you want your weight to be on the big leg. So this is easier to push over. See, I'm using just a finger. Easier to push over here than this is. This is a lot harder, and it's actually really difficult. It doesn't want to go over. So you put the weight on the big leg, the tallest leg, and then you put your weight of whatever you're doing on that big leg. If I put the weight over here, it would fall easily. If I put it over here, it doesn't want to come this direction easily. So it's going to be a lot sturdier. So let's start off with whatever's here first. This is an ultra bounce. It could be used as a negative. It could be used to block light, so it could just kind of come up, block. But its key purpose is to create a bounce. So I'm gonna install it here. There we go. And then I'm gonna bring it up here. Perfect. So we have it here. Right now, it's creating a negative. When you open this up, you have this white material. So I'm gonna make it where it bounces the sun to fill in on my side. So here it is, right there, and needs to go back a little bit more. Right about there. So now I can turn it to, I didn't tighten the knob all the way because I'm gonna be moving quickly, but turn it to catch the sun and give me some bounce back on me. And you could use this direction. You could also turn it around and do it if you need a little bit of bounce underneath to create this effect. So you could see the light hitting me here. And then we remove it by putting the darker side on it. You can see it's not reflecting as much. So that's an ultra bounce. Now, what's really cool too is you could just have this up and you could be shooting a light into it and it creates a bigger source, and it's softened and diffused because it's hitting and then reflecting back. So that's why it's called an ultra bounce. You bounce your light off of it and make it come. You could bounce the sun as well, and you could go as big as you want with something like this and do like a 12 by frame, an 8 by frame outside, and bounce light back into the shadow side, the fill side of something if needed. I'm gonna be better about locking everything off and having a good example. This is a negative or a floppy. I highly recommend you buy floppy variants of them all because it serves 2 purposes. If you just get a solid that doesn't have a floppy, it's almost a waste. You pay a couple bucks more and you get the floppy function. This is really good in conditions like this, and you need to set up Video Village or give a director a courtesy. And what a courtesy is, A courtesy is for a DP, a director, producer, anything like that. Tighten this guy down. When there's a lot of sun, you create shade for them. So now you could totally block something out for talent. So, man, it is so hot. Sorry, guys. You could totally block out light from above. So indoors, if there's overheads you have no control of and you want to just eliminate them, it's a tighter shot, or it's going to cast enough where you're not going to worry about it getting to a certain point. You could just put this overhead and completely block it and then focus on lighting from the other end. Or if you still have light spilling over and the sun is getting low, let's say it's sunrise or sunset and the sun is lower, you just pull these floppy portions down, and now you have a floppy here. And what happens a lot of times, depending on the brand you have, this one allows you to actually put one of these arms in here to give it weight, so then it stays open. Some people will just grab them and clip a clip here, or they'll just do a clip down here and just let it do its thing to keep it from blowing if there's a little bit of a breeze. Now, what's also cool about these is if you need to block out something and you need an 8x8, you could have two of these, because these are normally 4 feet long. Mine are a little shorter, so they fit in the van. But you get two of these together, it's like having an 8 foot. And then the length extended, it's like having an 8 foot. So you have an 8x8 solid. So I'm going to show you that now. So there you have this big piece here. You put that arm through here, your gobo arm through here, keep it weighted down, but now you have a lot more to block with. So here, I'm getting the sun, but if I go up with this and over a little, I could block it as well. I could block out windows, doors. So that's where floppies come into play. I'll tell you right now, as soon as a DP finds out you have a floppy, he wants another one and another one and another one. They're amazing to have. Quicker to set up than an 8x8 frame to block something out. So you just move these over, put it there, you're done, move on, instead of building out a frame in a tight space, moving it around. So this makes it real quick and easy to just cut some light. It also gives a courtesy. If we have a lot of lights up, this can block some of the lights we make to make it better for the DP to focus without having light glaring into their eyes and messing them up, because it's hard to get a good exposure if you're getting blasted by lights. It's hard to get a good framing because you're just bothered by it. This gives you that protection. It's almost like the concept, if you have your camera and it has an EVF and you put your eye to it and it's sunny out, it's so much easier to see than looking at the back of a screen with glare, reflections, and just so much light washing it out. So that makes it really great. So this is called the floppy. This is either made by Matthews, Canvas Grip made these. There's a bunch of companies that make them, but they just Velcro back. And I slide them in. So if I'm having, I got to make sure that they're not loose or they'll start catching on each other and wrinkling and tearing. So I'm going to put this one where the floppy is facing the other side in, so when the next one comes, it just slides in. So floppy, this is a loud motorcycle. This is just a solid, so this has no floppy capability. So it's still gonna block out light. You could adjust it and everything, but it doesn't have the floppy part that comes down. So I have one of these on board just in case, because it doesn't get taken away and used like a floppy. So it's kind of like my secret weapon that I keep on board. This is an artificial silk. It is a diffusion. So let me show you how this guy works. By the way, you could use these in this manner on a stand off to the side. You can make them flat, whatever suits your fancy. But we're gonna go where the sun is, which is right about there. And we're gonna block it off because it is annoying. So obviously you would fine tune this, we'd center up camera, but you could already see the difference this is making. Me being in the shade here, It's so nice. But the big problem is you got to be careful because this is almost 2 stops. So the difference between here and here, the dynamic range is a lot. So a lot of times you need to bring some light back in to the person. And that can be done with a bounce or bringing in lights. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. Bringing in lights when we have so much sun, it happens. They do that on newscasts all the time. So here's me in the shade with the silk in play, and then here's me in the sun. So there's a big difference. So that helps a ton on making things a lot nicer and a lot cleaner and a lot smoother looking, where it's not cooking me so much. I know that the sun's at my back a little bit, but still it's making a huge difference. So that is a artificial silk from Matthews. Then we have another floppy. So we'll get that guy in there. We have a frame. What can this frame be used for? So there's a lot of uses for this frame. We could wrap diffusion on it. That's an option. We can do a variety of things. I do actually have slip-on silk diffusions that have rubber, like a rubber portion here and here, like an elastic, and it slips on. And then I have my artificial silk. I have quarter grid, half grid, full grid, and then you could go with all different kinds of options. You could also gel this or do diffusion on it that comes in a roll. So that's really nice to be able to put this in front of a light and give you a nice big source and help cut light in a smaller space than sometimes doing a big old dome softbox or something to that effect. So I like to keep at least one of these, sometimes 2 of these on board. And a lot of times these come into play when we're rigging stuff out because people will hang stuff off of it. We'll use it for different aspects like that. I like to stick this somewhere where it's not going to make a lot of noise because it likes to clank a lot. So then we have another ultra bounce. So that's 2 ultra bounces. Make sure it doesn't get caught on anything. Can you believe it? Another floppy. Yeah. I think if I had a van that only had floppies and apple boxes, I could stay busy every single day. That is like the things that get yanked the most. Floppies, apple boxes. Floppies, apple boxes. You have floppies, you have apple boxes. Gimme, gimme, gimme. They just disappear on set every time. And then, I mean, shop bags and sandbags. Camera department loves them as well. Other departments want to use them. Those disappear too. So next thing is cutters, solids, different shapes. You may need to get into a tighter space and use one of these to kind of get in and cut some light that may be spilling in. So different sizes really make a difference. Here's another size. So this is smaller than those big ones. Just enough to cut the light where you may need to cut the edge of a light because some of it's spilling and creating something. So you've got to build out, so C-stands come into play a lot for those. And then this, which these are very delicate, you got to be careful with them. These are nets. These will cut down the exposure of something, but they still allow the light to stay straight and not get diffused. So they don't spread the diffusion, but they do reduce the output. So they are still technically kind of diffusing the light in a way, or maybe not, maybe I'm not saying it correctly. But anyways, so this guy here, could put here, and if you notice the difference it makes on my arm, this is a double net right here. So you could see the line that it's creating right there, that thick line, that's from the edge. So this has an open end on it to prevent that from happening as bad. So now when you see it, it's a little less noticeable. So at a distance, you may not see it as bad since it's an open net. This is a double net, so it has 2 layers. That's what the red is for. The green ones are single net. And then we have open net silks. I have them in various sizes. Same thing, you could diffuse the light, reduce it down so that you could work better with talent, not have hot spots, and help them out a lot. These come into play in a lot of situations. Sometimes you'll bring them in and edge the light, so they may have a really bright shirt on, and you may want to reduce that down, but that's where those nets come into play. Is, you know, they could have something bright and you could actually cut them. Where they really come into play, and it's just situation wise, is where the nets really come into play is if you have someone with varying skin tones. So you have a lighter skinned person, a darker skinned person, you have a great big soft source, but you need to cut down the light on one of them. And you would bring in that net and just edge it in. And that's why you have that open end, and you'd edge it in to bring down the exposure on that person. Sometimes you could tweak that by the way you position the light. Like if we were doing an 8x, we could position the light and just keep edging it until it does it. But sometimes you could do it with nets, especially in product photography. That's where it comes into play a lot. So then the last of our goodies are bounce boards. We've got a white bounce, which is a foam core, and then we have black. So with product photography is when I use a lot of these black ones. They slip into here. And then keep a variety of smaller sizes here, and they slide right in up here. And that's our layout here. We have smaller frames here, so we could do diffusion like this. You could tape them on, get a little bit of diffusion going, gels and whatnot. Gives us a little bit of variety on sizes. Like to keep these guys on board all the time. We have to build something out.